Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Ryan Paul Johnson with Fairfax County Department of Transportation, and I want to welcome you to the meeting to discuss the 2024 repavement in Sully and Dranesville districts. Before we begin, I'd like to review some guidelines so everyone can participate and get the most out of this session. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube and then linked to the project webpage. Microsoft Teams does offer a live captioning service. You can find it by clicking the three little dots at the top of your screen and choosing Turn on Live Captions. Once the presentation is completed, we will begin the question and answer portion, during which participants will ask their questions aloud. The chat feature has been disabled for this meeting, so there will not be any taking written questions today. If you're on the phone, please hold your questions to the end. We will have instructions on how to ask questions at the conclusion of the presentation. We also encourage you to submit your comments today for today's meeting and using the online survey, online feedback form, or phone call. Again, we will have addressed this at the end of the presentation. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Supervisor Smith with Sully District, and also Fabro from Dranesville District also. Supervisor Smith, if you want say any remarks, anything?
I'm just happy that we're having this meeting started, but I think it's important that we share this information with the public. So thank you for having this meeting tonight.
Or anything, comments you want to say from Dranesville?
Agree. Thank you for the meeting and sharing this information. I know our residents are really happy to have repaving and any pedestrian or bike projects that are available. So we appreciate the coordination.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Smith, and thank you, Prophet. I'll also like to introduce our first presenter from VDOT, Virginia Department of Transportation. Today we have Annie Beecher, Assistant Transportation and Land Use Director of Northern Fairfax County. Next, I would like to introduce Hannah Kackner, Transportation Planner 2 from Fairfax County Department of Transportation Active Transportation Section. Andy will be the first presenter. He will present the VDOT's repaving program, and after, Hannah from FCDOT will present slides on FCDOT's planned restriping projects as a part of the 2024 repaving projects. This will include any crosswalks or bike lanes FCDOT would add through the 2024 repavement program. With that, I'll turn it over to Andy.
All right, well, thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you tonight to talk about the repaving program. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let me know, guys, if you're able to see that.
Yeah,
I can see it.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to jump right into the agenda. So as far as my agenda tonight, it's going to cover some of the background information related to the paving program, as well as the Nova district itself. And then I'm going to review some of the information related to the upcoming paving budget and paving plan itself. And I'll wrap up by going over some of the helpful links and contact information that you can utilize if you ever have any questions. All right, jumping right in. As you may know, when we talk about our roadway inventory, we talk about it primarily in terms of lane miles. Overall, you can see how Northern Virginia compares to districts around the state. We're somewhere in the middle in terms of lane miles, but obviously packed into a much smaller geographic area. And then breaking those numbers down just a little bit further, you can see of those 14,000 lane miles, over half are in Fairfax County, about a quarter are in Loudoun, a little less than a quarter in Prince William, and then Arlington County has just only about 2%, keeping in mind that Arlington maintains their own secondary roadways. In terms of the paving program and its planning and construction, in general, the construction period obviously occurs during the warmer months, April through about October, November. But the planning that goes into that actually happens year-round. So starting in the spring, data is gathered for the next calendar year. Then later in the summer and fall, that data is reviewed, schedules and contracts are prepared, and then advertised for bids, and then prior year contracts are closed out. And then finally, in the winter time frame, the bids are received and evaluated, the contracts are executed, and then ultimately notice to proceed is given to the contractors for the next year. So as I said, it's a year-long process, and we're always busy with various aspects of the program. So a question that we often get asked is how roads are selected for paving. Primarily, we look at the pavement conditions of the roadway. We have very specific measurements that we look at from the field, and I'll talk more about those in a minute. But we also consider other information such as the roadway traffic volumes. With higher volumes, this is going to cause a roadway to deteriorate all that much quicker. We look to avoid locations with upcoming road projects or underground utility projects because we don't want to get that fresh pavement torn up just a few months or years down the road, so to speak. We do often group projects for economies of scale to try and help minimize our costs, particularly mobilization. So we might do an entire neighborhood all at once. Sometimes if we're running out of time in the paving season, we might end up just paving the main streets through a neighborhood as opposed to the entire neighborhood to get that out of the way. And then when we go back in a subsequent year, we're able to make quick work of doing the rest of the neighborhood. And then lastly, we do rely heavily on the feedback that we receive from our maintenance crews who are out in the field and observing the roadways on a day-to-day basis. So here's what I was talking about a moment ago as far as the data collection. There is a specific type of vehicle that we use for that. It's called an automatic road analyzer, or ARAN. And there's a number of different types of data that we can collect with that: pavement distress, roughness, texture, and rutting. And we do that through various means, including digital scanning, measurements, video and imagery, and also GPS. So there is a lot that goes into that data collection program. Now, as far as the frequency, for the interstate, primary, and high volume secondary roads, so those secondary roads with average annual daily traffic above 3,500 vehicles per day, we collect that data annually. For the lower volume secondary roads, it's about 20% annually, or 100% every 5 years. And just one note on that, with the sheer number of secondary roads, that's why it takes us longer to make a complete circuit of all the secondary roads that we have in our system. Now, the pavement ratings themselves, those are based on what is called the Critical Condition Index, or CCI, and you can see our scale on the left-hand side of the slide. So anything below 60 is considered poor or very poor. Above 60 is anywhere from fair to excellent. And there's a couple images on the side to help give you an idea of what certain ratings feel like. Obviously, our goal is to try and keep all of the roads in fair to excellent condition, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we grade ourselves in terms of how we're keeping up with the ratings on the next slide. So as an agency, VDOT has set targets for each of its districts with respect to pavement sufficiency, and it's dependent on the roadway classification. So we have different targets for the different types of roads. As you can see here, for interstate roads, our target is 82%, meaning that 82% of all the interstate roads, we want to have a CCI of 60 or above. Then we look at the primary roads with the high volume, over 3,500 vehicles per day, also a target of 82%. The lower volume primaries is a target of 75%. High volume secondaries is 82% again, and then the low volume secondaries is 60%. If you look more towards the right side of the slide, you can see how we did in Northern Virginia. So we met almost all of our targets with the exception of the high volume secondary roads, although we did come fairly close. Obviously, we'd like to meet our targets every year, but we are committed to continually trying to stay on top of the roadways as we move forward, and hopefully we'll meet all those targets in the coming years. On this slide, you can see a snapshot of the pavement conditions as of 2023. There is a legend on the right side which shows you poor is magenta, very poor is red, and then fair is yellow, good is green, and blue is excellent. So there is quite a lot of blue and green there and yellow, but we do still also have some red and magenta, and so our work is still cut out for us. But again, we're striving to meet those targets every year within our limited budgets. Now, in terms of the types of pavement treatments that we implement when we go out there, in some cases, our staff may determine that a preventative treatment is in order. Rather than do a full milling and overlay process, they might just do something like what we call a slurry seal. And again, that is preventative in nature. So we're trying to extend the life of the pavement through this application until we can get through and do a full mill and overlay in the future years. And then next we have the actual milling and overlay that I was referencing. There's two types. There's either the corrective or the restorative maintenance. The difference between the two is in one, you're only milling about 2 inches and then overlaying that back. With the restorative maintenance, we're going down up to 4 inches and then overlaying back a surface and intermediate mix asphalt. And then finally, kind of our less common treatment that's used in more extreme situations is full depth reclamation, where we actually excavate all the existing pavement, add back about 6 to 8 inches of pavement stabilization and 2 to 4 inches of intermediate and surface mix asphalt. Again, that is less common, and usually we don't like our roads to get into that situation where we need to do that, but it does happen occasionally, and that is the type of treatment that we would employ to correct that. All right, so on this table, we have the paving budget for Northern Virginia, and it shows you over the last 5 years what our budget has been historically, and then what our current budget is set at. You can see here that the budget is slightly higher than it has been in the last few years, but also we've had to deal with some inflation in the materials in their cost associated with repaving. So while the budget is up, the cost per mile is also up, which means that we're able to do less lane miles than we have in years past. So we're down to about 851 lane miles that we'll be able to do in this paving budget, roughly. Okay, on this slide, you can see a snapshot of the statewide paving map. This is the exact same map that you can view yourselves on virginiaroads.org. And this website really gives you an indication of what roads are scheduled to be repaved in your neighborhood and your community. And in the case of the legend for this, anything that is in red is scheduled for the upcoming paving season. If it's green, it's already in progress. And if it's blue, it's already been completed. Black is rescheduled, but that is something you might not see as commonly as the other three. All right, so as far as the pavement marking and striping, the way our contracts are set up, we typically replace in kind the existing striping almost immediately after we get the repaving done. But occasionally we are able to make some minor adjustments during repaving. Now, more elaborate changes, such as for bike lanes or new crosswalks, road diets, that kind of thing, these require significant prior planning and coordination. It's something that we work hand in hand with Fairfax County on if there is interest in making some changes like that. Now, if there is a situation that we have where we're looking to do some significant changes, in most cases, we will defer that repaving to a future paving cycle so that there's adequate time to do the appropriate planning and analyses associated with that to make sure that everyone is comfortable and on board with the proposed changes. Of course, the county is going to speak a little bit later about some specifics related to those types of initiatives that might be occurring in your community. And then lastly, my concluding slide here just shows you how the public can reach out to VDOT if you're experiencing an issue with a road or a maintenance request. So you can always go to the My VDOT website at my.vdot.virginia.gov, or you can call us at the 1-800-4ROAD number. That's 1-800-367-7623. And certainly we encourage you to take advantage of those resources. And that's pretty much it for me. I do appreciate the time this evening. You know, if there is any time later and if there's interest, I can demonstrate to you all how to use the paving map that is on Virginia roads. But otherwise, again, thank you, and I'll turn the floor back over to the county.
Thank you, Andy, and good evening, everyone. So at this point in the presentation, I'll move on to FCDOT's proposed striping modifications as part of the 2024 repaving program. So I'll just start off with a little bit of background on Fairfax County's role in the repaving program. So every year we collaborate with VDOT to provide new striping improvements on our roadways. And typically these are in the form of new crosswalks and bike lanes. So we start off every year by reviewing VDOT's draft repaving list and identifying roadways that VDOT plans to repave that could also be good candidates for new crosswalks or bike lanes. We are limited to roadway segments that VDOT is already repaving, so any proposed crosswalks or bike lanes need to fall within the area that VDOT is already repaving. And also worth noting, the scope of this project on FCDOT's end really does not extend beyond adding striping to the roadway, so any improvements like protected bike lanes or sidewalks are not something that we're able to add through this project. A major reason that we do this is to repurpose underutilized road space. Many of our roads here in Fairfax County were built with much wider travel lanes than are really necessary, or just with too many travel lanes, which can lead to some safety issues like speeding or inattentive driving. And the repaving program just allows us to bring those lane sizes down to more appropriate size by adding improvements like bike lanes, which can make the road appear more narrow and improve safety for all users at relatively little cost. And typically the traffic capacity at signals is going to be maintained, and we'll try to maintain legal on-street parking where space allows when we're adding bike lanes. And adding bike lanes through the repaving program also aids in the implementation of our planned bicycle network. So as you can see from this photo, you get a really nice traffic calming effect through adding those bike lanes, as we did here on Annandale Road through the repaving program. And with that additional striping, drivers are just given a visual impression that the width of the roadway has been reduced, which has been shown to slow vehicle speeds. And these are the three types of on-street bicycle facilities that you'll see in Fairfax County. We typically don't add sharrows anymore and are moving away from standard bike lanes with the goal of adding as many buffered bike lanes as possible, just to give cyclists some additional separation between themselves and the vehicle lane, which is going to provide for a more comfortable experience for cyclists and hopefully encourage more people to ride. And although this program only allows us to stripe bike lanes, adding the buffer just gives us the option in the future to protect the bike lane by adding physical barriers through other projects. And this diagram just shows a categorization of the 4 types of cyclists that we typically see. And while we're not able to build trails or protected bike lanes through the repaving program, we are trying to provide as many buffered bike lanes as possible, as I mentioned, where space allows, to try and appeal to that interested but concerned group. And this diagram here just outlines a few of the benefits that adding bicycle infrastructure provides. So as you can see, the bike lanes really can benefit all roadway users and not just cyclists. And again, they can just provide a really nice traffic calming effect by making the roadway appear narrower to drivers. So moving on to our planned striping modifications in Sully District. First up, we have a bike lane project on Walney Road between Westfields Boulevard and Westmore Street, which will involve adding buffers to and also extending the existing bike lanes on Walney Road. So currently this segment of Walney Road that we are proposing adding bike lanes to has 4 wide travel lanes and a center turn lane. And there are on-street bike lanes, but on-street bike lanes without a buffer between Westfields Boulevard and Willard Street, but none between Willard Road and Westmore Street. And so what we're proposing is adding a buffer to the existing bike lanes between Westfields Boulevard and Willard Road, and just extending that bike lane down to Westmore Street. And this will have no impact on the travel or parking lanes, so just using the existing width of the roadway there. And we are also planning bike lanes along Field and Kemet Road from Golden Oak Road to Centerwood Drive. And I just wanted to share that VDOT was able to repave these streets more quickly than anticipated. And as a result, we had to make a decision relatively quickly on whether or not to implement the projects prior to this meeting. We're not making substantial changes to the street in terms of removing parking or travel lanes. So therefore, the purpose of this meeting is more informational rather than to obtain feedback on these bike lanes. So currently this segment of Field and Kemet Road has 2 wide travel lanes, on-street parking on both sides of the street, and no on-street bike facilities. There is a connection to the 66 parallel trail near Golden Oak Road, so adding the bike lanes will create a lower stress connection to and from the 66 parallel trail. And so what we're planning to do is to add bike lanes between Golden Oak Road and Centerwood Drive, as is in our countywide bicycle master plan, by narrowing the travel lanes. Most of the legal on-street parking will remain as part of this plan, so the roadway will end up looking pretty similar to what you see on Green Trails Boulevard pictured here. So crosswalk enhancements are another opportunity to improve pedestrian safety through the repaving program. Sometimes we'll have to restrict parking on the approach to a new crosswalk to comply with the state code, so that a parked vehicle will not obstruct the view of a pedestrian in the crosswalk from other drivers. And sometimes we'll upgrade existing crosswalks to high visibility, like the one you see in this photo here. And then additionally, we'll sometimes look for opportunities to add striping for future pedestrian refuge islands. Although we can't add the actual pedestrian refuge island, we can add the striping for one to reduce cost on those projects in the future. So we have one crosswalk planned in Sully District at Compton Village Road and Talavas Drive. And in order to meet site distance requirements, we will need to restrict 7 spaces on the southbound side of the street and 4 spaces on the northbound side of the street. And those are just marked in yellow on the image here. And then we also have one proposed crosswalk for the Dranesville district at Chestervick Road and Kirby Road. And with that one, we will not have to restrict any parking. So very easy to add that one there. And that just about does it for our proposed restriping modifications. If you have paving related comments, including draining issues, missing signage, signal repair, walker repair, site distance issues related to vegetation, those should all be submitted to VDOT through the My VDOT portal, which is linked here. If you'd like to request road repairs, just follow the I need a road repaired link on the VDOT portal or call 1-800-4ROAD. We also have the project webpage linked here, which has the proposed project scopes and planned project scopes, as well as tonight's presentation and additional information about the repaving program. So as I mentioned, VDOT's contractor was able to repave Field and Camet Road and Compton Village Drive much faster than anticipated. And as such, a decision about that has been made prior to this meeting. So we will not have a comment period for those projects. But if you do have additional questions after this meeting, feel free to email us at dotbicycleprograms@fairfaxcounty.gov. And of course, we'll also have an opportunity right now to ask any questions. So my colleague RP will just go over the instructions on how to ask questions.
All right, so yes, we will now take questions and comments on both of the presentations for both districts. You may answer verbally by raising your hand, which is the button that is at the top of your screen there. I would then enable your microphone, and then you will unmute yourself and begin your question. Once you are done with your question, please mute yourself back, and I will go ahead and disable your microphone. For those who are on the phone, please press *5 to raise your hand. When you're called upon by your phone number, press *6 to unmute yourself, and after you're finished, please press *6 again to mute yourself. And attendees who are not on the phone, please be patient as our callers are listening to our system instructions through their phone to participate. And once again, we will not be taking any questions or comments through chat. Okay, so we're going to start with the questions. And I have one person who has raised their hand, Diana, excuse me. I'm going to allow you your mic, and you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, I have two questions, please. My first question is, I've been communicating with Prabha Rollins in the Dranesville District Office, and I was asking her about, or letting her know, we have a need for a crosswalk marking on Birch Road to connect existing sidewalks on Kirby Road. And she was saying that the location that I've identified has been placed on the unfunded project list. So I'd like to know, where is this list that shows unfunded projects? Because I'd like to see how many unfunded projects we have and where it ranks, or where it is located on the list for this crosswalk marking that's needed on Birch Road, connecting the existing sidewalks on Kirby Road. So do you know, or could I get a link or something for those unfunded project lists?
So it's just a list that we have internally that we add to whenever we get a resident request for a crosswalk or any other pedestrian or cyclist improvements. We periodically go through like prioritizations internally of those, which I believe are made public. If you'd like to send us an email, we can send you some more details on that process if you'd like, and how it's prioritized. Where would you
send that? Could I get your name again?
Yes, Hannah Kackner.
Okay.
And if you just email dotbicycleprograms@fairfaxcounty.gov, just the email address on the screen.
Great. And my second question is in regards to Tucker Avenue here in McLean as well. And that's also where this Birch Road and needs the crosswalk, is right around the corner from it. Tucker Avenue is having a stormwater project. And we have waited almost over 25 years to get paving done on Tucker Avenue. And it's been passed over just because, I suppose they've been planning a stormwater project for 50 years. And, you know, it just never has gotten done, but thank goodness it's going to start supposedly any day now. And it's supposed to end January of 2026. So my question is, when will you guys, do you guys already have us then for the spring of 2026 for paving for Tucker Avenue? How, you know, we don't want to be waiting a year or 2 years. We want to be able to get paved immediately after the project is finished in January 2026. So can you guys make that happen? How does it work?
I'll let Andy speak to that.
Okay.
VDOT covers actual paving.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and our paving staff will typically start developing the next year's paving plan during the current year. So I know they're working on the 2025 paving plan. For 2026, we don't have a paving plan in draft form yet, but I am sure that Tucker, because of the unique situation it's in, is you know, in the minds of the folks who are developing those lists for the upcoming cycles. But let me go ahead and check on that for you and make sure that that is the case, and then I can follow up with you. If it's okay, maybe what you can do is just send an email to my email address, and that way I'll have your contact information, and I can give that to you right
Sure,
now if you'd like.
Yes, I'm ready.
It's Andrew.Beecher, Beacher,
Yes.
at vdot.virginia, spelled out, .gov.
Okay, and then, okay, that's great. I did remember I have one more question if I could ask that too, please. You know, I know that there was, I see these wires or cables going over the road on Tucker Avenue, and I suppose they're measuring traffic. Is someone able to tell me whether it's being looked at for traffic calming or what is going on there right now with those, with that?
I'm not sure if it's being looked at for traffic calming. Those are usually put down to just count the number of vehicles. Is that, I think usually VDOT is the one who puts those out. Traffic calming is also done.
Speak to that.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Hannah, I mean, usually those are tube counters that are put out on the road, and they do collect traffic volumes as you correctly stated. I don't know the specific purpose of those, but I can check on that as well. I'd be happy to.
Thank you, and I'll put it in the I'll put a separate email for that. But thank you all very much. Those are my questions. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Diane.
Okay.
And I'm going to move to Jennifer now. I'm going to enable your mic, and you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question or comment, Jennifer.
Excellent, thank you. I do recognize you're not taking feedback on the Compton Village projects. I respect that, but I was just hoping for a clarification. On the county transportation site, you had that the crosswalk was going to be at the Bradenton intersection, and the presentation had the Talavast intersection. And I live between the two. One has a always stop sign, one doesn't. So I was just hoping for a clarification of which intersection is being striped.
Yes, so sorry about that. We did have to drop the the one that was not in the presentation. So the Compton Village and Talavast one is the one that we're adding. I think the issue with the other location had to do with site distance, and it that location not meeting the proper site distance.
Nope, that's perfect. I just wanted the clarification of which intersection it was. And then I guess it's a question because I recognize it's not quite paved yet. They've been actively paving this week. Is there any concerns that that is not an all-way stop sign?
This location here, the Talavast.
Yeah, that's a two-way stop, but the Compton Village Drive has right of way to go through.
So,
Oh, yes,
Hannah,
you can speak to that if you want. Wait,
sorry, Hannah, I can.
that's okay.
So the Compton Village HOA had reached out to Supervisor Smith's office and asked for a review of that intersection for a multi-way stop. And our office reached out to VDOT to do a review because it is a state road, so VDOT does the review. And it was only just recently, within the last week, that VDOT Traffic Engineering responded to our office to say they completed the review and that the intersection does not meet the criteria that they have for a multi-way stop. So they will not. So they won't be putting a multi-way stop in at that intersection.
This is the
Well, that's-
Bradenton one, correct?
Bradenton is a always stop, so he's speaking to Televast.
Oh, okay, yes.
Correct.
That's disappointing, but I do appreciate the information, so thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. We're going to move to Kathy. I'm going to go ahead and enable your mic, and you can go ahead and mute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, hi there. I'm also on Compton Village Drive, and I just had a question about the bike lanes and whether that was ever considered to add those bike lane for traffic calming purposes on our street. Because we actually are having a meeting tomorrow about the traffic calming, and
Yes, we are.
this was never offered as an option, and it seems to me that it'd be a much more cost-effective option than putting in speed bumps and some of the other things we were thinking about doing.
So I'm not sure if that was considered. This was planned about a year ago, actually, before I started working for the county. Okay. So I'm not sure exactly if that was considered, but it could have been because of a roadway with issue. There are a number of reasons why maybe it wouldn't have worked. But if you like a more detailed response, definitely feel free to email our office and we can make sure you get one.
At this point, it's like too late to be considered, though. Is that true?
Through the repaving program, or just this time around. Yeah, it's not like definitely in the future, just not like through the repaving program, because the roads are already being repaved and we have plans.
Yeah.
And everything, so.
Yeah. Okay. Just trying to figure out for the meeting tomorrow whether to offer it as a possibility.
So I can speak to that a little bit. Again, my name is Mike Coyle with Supervisor Smith's office. So our county's Department of Transportation, under the auspice of VDOT, has measures and things that they have in their toolkit for the traffic calming program. And so sometimes they can do some things with striping, but it's typically as part of the traffic calming program. It's not to do bike lanes. You have things like speed humps, speed tables, raised medians, chicanes. Those are the types of measures that are available as part of the traffic calming program.
All righty. Well, guess that still doesn't really answer if it would be possible to do it in the future, but you're thinking maybe you have to go through a different process.
So we can add it to just a general unfunded project list for whether or not funding is available in the future, or next time the road does get repaved, we can definitely consider it again. That way we have it noted that there's a desire for it in the community.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, I'm going to move next to Kim. If you want to go ahead and unmute your mic, and you go ahead with your question, Kim.
Hi, thanks. I'm also with Compton Village, and I'm the head for the calming traffic. So, hi, Mike.
Kim, it'll be nice to see you tomorrow.
Yes, it will be very nice. I just had some clarifying questions. So back to the picture that you showed on the slide for Televast. Can you clarify if this picture is then supposed to be for Bradenton? Because that is a four-way stop and Televast is not. And it was not approved to be a four-way stop?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure I understood your question.
I think they're asking whether or not this project was actually supposed to be for the other intersection you all were discussing,
Yeah.
instead of this intersection because it's not a four-way stop.
I don't think so. I can double check on that though.
Okay, yeah, that would be helpful just because right down the street from that, I think you can see in the corner, there's a tennis court.
Yep.
And right on the other end of the tennis court, we will be proposing tomorrow a traffic calming. So if you're already taking spaces from the corner, then what we are suggesting would take more spaces away. And I think the community would not like that. And I don't think that would be very smart because we have a lot of people that park on that road. So it's going to change kind of our process tomorrow, if that makes sense. Mike, does that make sense?
It
Okay.
does.
Yeah.
I would say that, as part of the raised median that is proposed there, that's also going to take, parking spaces, and to some extent they overlap a little bit, though they don't match up completely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, well, this one pretty much is planned at this point since they're already repaving it, but we'll record your feedback and also make sure that's passed along to the RTAP team as well, who works with the traffic coming.
Thank you. And then you'll check on the Bradenton intersection that.
Yeah, Hannah, if you
like
can
a three-way stop, it should have a crosswalk there for sure.
Okay, I can check on that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Kathy, did you have another question?
No, I forgot to unraise my hand.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay.
There, I don't know how to, there we go. Okay, sorry.
And Diana, did you have another question also?
Yes,
Go
I
ahead.
do have another question, please.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'd like to go back to the crosswalk that's needed on Birch Road, which is supposedly on an unfunded project list that I guess many people in the MCA transportation, or some people in the MCA transportation committee have said that they've heard of, but they've never seen it. It's like, somewhere in the cloud, but I live not far from Powhatan Street, and I don't know if Powhatan Street sounds familiar. Does anybody know of Powhatan Street? Anyway, it's around the corner from us, and I have to tell you that the amount of work that's been done on Powhatan Street, you just have to ask yourself who lives there, because they get taken care of so well. Every corner on Powhatan Street was made into an ADA. So part of the reason, from what Prabha had written to me, was that VDOT is not able to install the crosswalk because it's missing necessary infrastructure. I guess when some of the new sidewalk that was done on Kirby Road, on one side, it got the approved ADA ramp and curb, but the other side, did not get the ADA ramp. And that has to be done before the crosswalk can be put there. Now, my understanding about these ADA ramps is that, they're obviously very necessary and important. And like I said, Powhatan all the way, which is like, I don't know, 1.5 miles or something, has them on every corner. I don't understand why this hasn't sort of been bumped up to a prioritized project, so that can be done, to have the ADA ramp and get the crosswalk. That intersection there on Birch and Kirby is a very dangerous intersection. It's had a good many traffic accidents on it, and you know, it really could use that crosswalk marking. So I wanted to point that out about that, and see if you can really look into it further. And I will still send an email to follow up, but I wanted to let you know there's more to it than just needing a crosswalk marking, because Prabha did the communication and let me know all that.
Yeah, definitely send us an email. Again, it's not something we can do through this program just because that road isn't being repaved this time. But if you are interested in learning more about like our prioritization process, we have some information on our website. Let me just quickly pull up the link really quickly.
Well, I think this is probably, it sounds like something that should have been part of the active transportation projects, because over here on Birch Road, we also have no sidewalk in a very dangerous area, and it just got approved for a study, which my understanding is, you know, that the sidewalk will come after the study is done. But I didn't see it anywhere, and it wasn't mentioned anywhere about, you know, the possibility of it being part of an active transportation project. Is that where it would go? Is that where it would be? Yeah, promising, saying that.
Yeah, it probably would, just if we couldn't do it through repaving, it would have to be its own separate project.
So,
Right.
So it needs to be on that list. And I don't understand, there were so many on that list, and you know, and that would have, I mean, where is this unfunded list? I mean, it just doesn't seem like there should be an unfunded project list out there with a bunch of things on it that is not really brought to, you know, that isn't really brought to the public, because we should get to know, you know, what's on it.
Yeah, it's again just a list that we keep internally every time we get a request from a community member or from a supervisor's office, and we refer to that list, and then internally we also just prioritize those projects for funding in the future.
Okay, well,
Right.
we need to get that up there, please.
Right, those projects, because there's definitely the same for sidewalk projects along with crosswalk projects. So as they come in from the public, and as there are priorities also to our supervisor's office, we kind of go and from that, and that's how the process begins of creating the priority projects, essentially out of all of those, that list. But definitely the majority of them will not be implemented or will not become studied until we have some type of funding to enable to do that. So that's what makes it a little lengthy process, is when that funding comes in, that's when we can get the ball rolling. You know,
well, it seems like that should have been, sorry, it seems like that should have been put on the study with the sidewalk that's being done for the missing segment of sidewalk on Birch Road from Birch Grove Court to Kirby Road, because that actually covers that corner, I believe. It's going to cover the corner.
And most likely, like, that's what, whenever you said that, most likely we do consider that also. But let me actually check on the study, the Birch Road sidewalk study.
Yeah, yes. The missing.
We can connect you to a point of contact on that as well, because I don't believe neither of us are involved in that. But we can certainly connect you with whoever is.
Right. So once you send us that email, we can definitely get you contact with and information about what's going on with it.
So much appreciated, and thank you very much, Prabha, as well, for getting all of that information. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Once again, if you have a question or comment, please go ahead and raise your hand. Also, again, if you're on the phone, press *5 to raise your hand, and then *6 to unmute yourself once you have been called upon. We give a little bit more time just in case someone has a question. Okay. Hannah, do you want to go back to the contact page so people can see that one last time, just in case they want to, or I don't know, that's another slide that's coming up. Okay. Yeah.
We just have the bicycle program's email address here.
Okay.
For
yeah,
anyone
the
who does
bicycle
want feedback.
program's email address is there on the screen. Once again, it's DOT bicycle programs at fairfaxcounty.gov. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send us any of those at that email address, and we'll definitely get your questions and comments answered. Okay. Well, this concludes our meeting on the 2024 repavement program. A recording for this meeting, once again, will be available on the project website in the next coming days. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we really appreciate your time and participation, and have a great evening. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone.